What if I told you that the hidden side of you, the darkest part of your psyche, is the bearer of infinite potential? Are you ready to dive deeper within and discover the unspoken powers that unfold when you face your shadows? Today, embrace the darkness and discover for yourself.
Shadow work this, shadow work that. Are you tired of hearing these words constantly and not knowing exactly what they mean? Well, actually, me too. I feel the same way. So, welcome to the ultimate guide to shadow work. What is the shadow self and self-transformation? Made by yours truly. Hi, my name is Mimi. I'm a content creator. I am mostly interested in these virtual niche, manifestation, self-development, self-healing, all of that good stuff. I am a tarot reader, a spiritual coach, an overthinker, but also a certified whimsical creature, aka your online fairy godmother, here to assist you. So, without further ado, let's explore the concept of the shadow self, shadow work, and where it originates from. It actually comes from the very famous psychiatrist Carl Jung. He is most known as a pioneer in the field of analytical psychology. His work influences today's modern world of psychology, let's just put it that way. He is very well known for exploring the themes of extroversion and introversion, personality archetypes, the collective subconscious, dream analysis, and overall he had a great interest into the human subconscious. So the way that I would describe your shadow self, based also on Carl Jung's work, would be that it is a repression of certain parts of you, whether it is insecurities or fears or things that were not deemed worthy when you were younger. Because as we all know, when we are a little bit younger, when we are children, we are very reliant on the world around us, and our ego or our sense of self is not fully developed or tough enough for us to resist these pressures outside of us. We need others in order to survive, and therefore if others deem certain parts of us as not good enough, it is a threat to our survival. Therefore, we bury them deep within, and it creates a subconscious or perhaps conscious separation between the idea of who you are, who you pretend to be, and who you really are, the repressed parts of you. In another way, you could see it as a more polished version of yourself that you have worked on presenting properly in a more raw and authentic version of yourself. Therefore, you are not entirely whole. You are born whole, but there's parts of you that go missing, as if you were a pie and there's parts of you that people take away. So there's little this is such a funny metaphor, but there's little pie pieces of you that just go away. This is kind of the ideology that I would explain to you behind shadow work, shadow self, all of that good stuff. The work in itself of, shadow work, like we say, is all about coming back to who you really are. It's about the integration of these two parts of you. It is therefore re-becoming whole. And don't worry. I know that these words sound complicated and big and scary, but every human has a shadow aspect. Every human has a shadow self. It is part of the human experience. So do not worry, do not fear. It is normal to have this kind of experience with yourself. Why should you practice the art of shadow work? That is one great question, and I will give you 2 to 3 answers depending on where you stand. First of all, shadow work is the key to your full potential. It is literally where every possibility lies. There is no full potential without integration of your entire being. For every weakness that you have, there is a strength. And for every strength that you have, there is a weakness to it. There's two sides of the coin. And you do not want one simple side of a coin. You want the whole coin. You know what I'm saying? So for every aspect of ourselves that we deny, we remain partial, not whole. That is a big problem. There is no true self without the hidden or perhaps darker sides that you are not fully assuming. The self is whole. You are an entire person with flaws and complex little details about you. There is no self-realization if there is a lack of full self-exploration of one's complete self. So, in resume of, all of these complicated words, let's just say that you will never access your fullest potential by not being real with yourself and by not diving deeper into who you are to the core, okay? To the core. Now, another thing that I would argue that, is the main reason why you should actually dive into the world of shadow work, it would be because not facing your shadow actually makes things way more complicated. It makes it worse. Think about when you play with shadow puppets with your hands. When you take it away from the light, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. That is kind of the same thing. Your shadow will just grow, and it will make your fears and insecurities more apt to control you. So for example, if you are very afraid of seeming insecure, you will become insecure about being insecure. Does that make sense? And when it comes to shadow work, the only way, unfortunately, is through. Carl Jung also specifies that in his work. There is no, going around the loop. There is no quick trick that will fix this. It's about facing the problem at face value. And there lies also the possibility of so much growth and enlightenment and realization, aka, like we said earlier, your full potential. So again, running away just makes things better, and you do not want to run away from your potential now, do you? You don't want things to get worse now, do you? And you do not want to be forced to become exactly what you fear. For example, I will give myself as an example, if you don't mind. I used to be very afraid of being anxious, being perceived as someone who is super anxious and whatever. The more that I ran away from this idea that I had a lot of anxiety, the more that I tried to push it down, the more that I was anxious about it, the more that I became anxious, and I literally became what I feared to be. It was just so silly in my teenage years, and everyone recognized me as this anxious person. And it's not until I had to face the idea, like, I am anxious, I do have a lot of fears, I do have a lot of insecurities. It is not until then that I started to realize, okay, maybe I don't need to subscribe to this narrative anymore. And that is when I broke free from the quote-unquote curse, from the curse of the shadow. Let's just put it that way. And I would say my last argument will probably be that you will gain peace. And what is more valuable in this world than peace? You will rediscover parts of yourself that maybe you had forgotten about. You will rediscover maybe interests or hobbies or things that were really important to you but were deemed as maybe useless or silly. And you reclaim your full authentic self. You step back into the whole version of you, like we mentioned before, which will make you feel so much more confident, so much more at peace, so much clarity will come to you. So, like we said earlier, it's all about full potential. There's this very popular saying that I really love: as above, so below. And this is something that I want you to remind yourself of while we speak about shadow work and all of these beautiful things. We need to pull back an arrow before firing it, right? So things happen for us, not to us. This is why we need to do shadow work. Okay, so now that we understand sort of the ideology behind this, the shadow self, shadow work, all of these things, we're gonna go through very quick, very easy, and steps that you can actually act on. I'm not gonna just sit here and give you some whatever tips and then you just leave with nothing in this video. I'm gonna give you 3 actionable steps, and the rest will be up to you. Before we dive into the steps, I just wanted to say shadow work is something that you do by yourself. It is very personal. It is intimate. You cannot ask someone else to do it for you. So dive into this world by yourself, for yourself, with yourself. Step 1, observation. Now, this sounds a little bit silly, but there are so many clues about us in the way that, our fantasies, our thoughts, our feelings, our day-to-day emotions, our reactions, our interests, our habits, our limitations, the stories that we tell to ourselves, our impulses, and even our current life state. Observe the world in which you live in, but most specifically from the inside. Take on the role of analyzing the world around you from a new, fresh perspective. Take on the role of analyzing the way that you act, as if you were observing yourself from the outside, and start to be aware of what parts of you are being highlighted or hidden. What parts of you are a manifestation of these hidden shadow aspects of yourself. For example, if you are in general someone who is very, very calm, there's certain things that make you react very intensely. Pay attention to that and ask yourself, okay, why? What's causing this? What am I hiding? What does this mean about me? The role of being the observator is such a crucial and powerful role, no matter what. Something that could really assist you, I would say, is being more self-aware through the art of journaling, mindfulness, meditation, or just observing your day-to-day thoughts, cutting distractions overall, because of course you will not be able to do all of these things if you are consistently overwhelmed and bombarded with information and entertainment and overall distractions. And this process it's a little bit, I don't know, it can be a little bit uncomfortable because you get to observe how you react to your shadow self and vice versa, and how your shadow self perceives the world. There can be very unpleasant truths that will arise, but of course you must embrace them, or at least for now just observe them. Do not repress anything as of right now. The entire process of observation is just to witness and acknowledge that this is here. Now, for the next step, I will call it negotiation, and it's within you, so we're not negotiating with anyone else. This is about yourself. You have to find ways to be more authentic with yourself, to integrate these shadow aspects of your psyche safely into your day-to-day life. Why is that? Well, I would say, see it as, okay, I know it's not exactly the process, but see it as processing rocks into diamonds. You know what I'm saying? There's a process where we need to take the uglier parts and turn them into something beautiful. The diamond would be your full potential, your full, whole, authentic self, right? There is no diamond without a little bit of dirt and hard work. Now, I am not a specialist into rocks and the gems and precious stones, but I hope you understand the image that I'm trying to paint to you. You have to be more self-accepting. I would say also something interesting is that Carl Jung notes that the shadow self, is the door to the full self. So I wish we had some kind of diagram. If I find it, I'm going to put it on the screen. But I just thought that this observation was very, very interesting. Now, moving on, you will need to practice a lot of empathy, not only with yourself, but also with the world, as you become slowly more and more aware that everyone has these difficulties to process and these shadow aspects. It will help you in some way to open up your heart a little bit more. But most importantly, yes, be very patient, be very compassionate with yourself during this process, because it might be a little bit difficult, a little bit triggering, perhaps even just a little bit scary, but it is still very crucial, and it is still part of the shadow work. If it scares you and if it brings out emotions in you, you gotta observe and ask why. I acknowledge that this is how I'm feeling, why? And be curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions to yourself, because I'm gonna be honest to you, we have so many answers without even realizing that we have so many answers. Like, it's crazy, when people say all of the answers are within, they're not kidding. During this step of the shadow work, you will have to be a little bit more by yourself, and again, cut out the distractions. It's okay if you take a few weeks to do this by yourself in a more quiet and slower pace of life, when there's a moment in your life where things are just kind of more chill. Take the time to explore yourself from within and to be by yourself and observe yourself and explore new avenues, explore new things, explore new parts of yourself. Like I said earlier, curiosity is very crucial through this entire process. Even if we're a little afraid, you want to be more curious than afraid. Now, the very last step of this whole shadow work thing would be integration. The integration part is the one that takes the most time. I'll be honest with you. It takes time, and sometimes you will fail. Sometimes you will go back a little bit into your old ways, and that's okay. It's part of the whole progress of things. You have to do deep healing work, very deep healing work. So what I mean by that is just like, if you have journaling prompts, if you have maybe access to a therapist or a psychologist, I would highly recommend seeing a licensed professional. If you're looking for journaling prompts, I have posted them on my Patreon. I think I posted 8 of them, and they're very interesting. But deep healing work, which it means going very deeply into your wounds and not observing them from the surface level. So for example, if you say, yeah, I have a father wound that was not very close to my dad, okay, explore, ask yourself why, what happened, why do I have memories about this, do I have feelings about this, how is this affecting me in my everyday life, do I have a certain ideology around the men in my life because of the relationship I had with my father, blah blah blah. This is deep healing work. It's about going layer after layer after layer after layer until we get to the core of the wound, and understanding it. And will change a lot of things. I'm just saying, it will change a lot of things. So I would also recommend subconscious releasing. The reason being that you don't understand how much is stored into your body and into your subconscious until you take a look into it. There's a lot of trauma and memories that is held within our body and within our subconscious minds. And one great way that you can release all of these things is through, for me, art therapy. Oh my gosh, art therapy was such a great experience. But also I would say, if you're not very creative, I suggest that you try certain meditations. I do have a meditation that is about subconscious releasing that I will link down below. It is very effective in that it has worked on me and on other people as well. And it's a very simple technique, very quick, very easy. It's just about allowing yourself to just kind of like fall within, feel everything that is happening in your subconscious mind and releasing it. But as you can see, releasing, cleansing is a big theme of this step, the integration part, because we cannot integrate if we have blockages, if we have walls that are built around us. And I would say slowly but surely adapt to your way of living. Start practically planning a little bit more for the person that you are becoming, and fully integrating your full self is definitely a challenge. But remember that if you are experiencing resistance, you are blocking yourself from true actual growth. And then in this universe, in this world, everything is always aiming for expansion. You are kind of blocking your way to your fullest, not potential, I already said fullest potential, but your fullest self, the ultimate version of who you are, ever expanding, right? So the lower that you will go within, the higher you will be able to fly. Like I said earlier, as above, so below. There are a lot of things to explore about yourself, a lot more than you could possibly imagine. It is very interesting, I'm telling you. So reflect on your fears. Identify who you are not versus who you are to the fullest. Explore repressed memories and feelings and unify who you are. Come back to your whole entire self. And this is pretty much just simplified, very, very accessible, ultimate guide to shadow work. No extra techniques, no overly complicated things. This is the definition of the shadow self. This is what shadow work is. And this is literally the process of self-transformation made easy, accessible, and quick for you. So if you enjoyed this video and what I do, all of my links are down below. If you want to work with me one-on-ones for more clarity, guidance, or transformation, my website is down below. I appreciate you for coming out here and having the courage to look into the world of shadow self, shadow work, all of that good stuff, because it proves that you are very courageous. A lot of people do not dare to even think about doing the work that you're about to do or you are already doing. So I'm very proud of you. Many thanks. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.